So one of my favorite horror franchises of all time is Resident Evil. And guys, this is one with so much rich history. I mean, we've gotten movies out of this. We've gotten, 8 games up to this point in time. Remakes to all kinds of different things happening within the Resident Evil universe. And I want to talk about the continuation, Resident Evil 9. What do we know about this? When could it be coming out? And I want to hear your guys' thoughts about all of these things in the comment section down below. So let's get into it. In an article coming to us from Dalton Cooper of Game Rant, according to a reputable leaker, the Resident Evil 9 release date will be sometime in 2025. Resident Evil remains one of Capcom's biggest franchises, with new games released in the series on a near annual basis. Considering the incredible success the Resident Evil franchise has enjoyed since its inception, it's no surprise to learn that Capcom has a 9th main series entry in the works. I will say this, guys. As with any franchise out there, one of my favorite franchises of all time is Call of Duty. And similar to Call of Duty, Resident Evil has, peaks and valleys. It has some of the games are unbelievable, others are not as great. For me personally, Resident Evil 7 BIOHAZARD was probably my favorite Resident Evil game ever made. And I really loved it so much because it was so ingrained in horror and just that true horror experience, a terrifying experience. I would love to see them go back to something like this. But I will say that Resident Evil Village was absolutely awesome as well. Probably my favorite, besides Biohazard since like Resident Evil 5. I absolutely love this franchise as a whole. The action versus horror has always been a big talking point in the Resident Evil universe. For me, I love horror over action, but having, some of them being action-based games, kind of like Resident Evil 5, I'm okay with that. But I really love that. I feel what makes Resident Evil is obviously a really rich story, but with a ton of horror elements to it. And so I'm really hoping that they really double down on that here in Resident Evil 9. Rumors have been swirling about Capcom's plans for Resident Evil 9 for some time now. Unverified leaks have claimed that Resident Evil 9 will have skinwalker monsters and be set in a ghost town in the West. Whether or not there's any truth to those suggests leaks remains to be seen, but it seems fans will find out one way or another if the Resident Evil 9 reveal happens in 2024 as expected. So according to these leakers, apparently, guys, it's going to be announced in 2024 and released in 2025, and I'm all for it. The new information on Resident Evil 9 comes from Aesthetic Gamer, aka Dusk Golem, who is known for their accurate Resident Evil and horror game leaks. They believe that Capcom will be announcing Resident Evil 9 in 2024, with the game itself launching in 2025. This doesn't provide a specific release date for fans to mark on their calendars, but it does let Resident Evil enthusiasts know that they shouldn't expect to play Resident Evil 9 until 2025 at the earliest. With Resident Evil 9 rumored to be at least 2 years out, fans may be wondering what else Capcom has in the pipeline between now and then. The same leaker has said that Capcom will be announcing a major title at the end of 2023, which will then be released in fall of 2024. There's no indication as to what that title is, but if it were Resident Evil related, one would think that would have been specified. So it'll be very interesting to see what they decide to do here, guys, in terms of, is it going to be a Resident Evil title, a remake? Is it, what exactly is that other project that they're going to be working on? I'll definitely stay here with zrotv to learn. When we learn more, guys, I'll be sure to let you guys know. But with that being said, guys, obviously, this is a complete guess, but a new Monster Hunter game seems like the most likely scenario. After all, Monster Hunter World is 5 years old at this point, and while Monster Hunter Rise was a great game in its own right, it originating as a Switch game inevitably meant that it wasn't as ambitious as World. Monster Hunter World has record-breaking sales, so one has to imagine that a direct sequel to that game has to be a distinct possibility. As for the Resident Evil franchise, there are no new Resident Evil games currently announced. However, there are rumors that Capcom is releasing more Resident Evil 4 Remake DLC at some point in the near future, potentially adding the Separate Ways campaign to the game. Obviously, guys, Resident Evil 9 is rumored to be in development, and that right there got me very, very excited. My biggest question, though, is it going to be more like Resident Evil 8, Or is it going to be more like Resident Evil 7, Biohazard? Biohazard or Village? Is it going to be more of one or the other? Or is it going to be totally different and actually be more like a Resident Evil 5 or Resident Evil 6? That's what's going to be very intriguing to me. I'm really hoping, though, guys, that it's going to be more down the vein of Village and or, Biohazard. And in terms of this other title that they're working on, could it be Monster Hunter World? Could it be something else? It's hard to say, guys. Would I be open to a Monster Hunter World? Of course. I mean, that'd be cool. But I actually would rather Capcom took that resource in development and made other Resident Evil games. I mean, I would love to see more and more Resident Evil games come out, whether they're spin-offs or whatever it is. I would love to see them do that, because what I think would be the coolest scenario would be as if they had two separate teams. One works on Resident Evil games that are kind of down the same vein as Biohazard, true horror, and then maybe more action Resident Evil games. They have a separate team doing that, or games more similar to like Village. Even though Village is kind of closer to Biohazard, maybe something like a Resident Evil 5 where there's more action versus horror. Maybe they would have a separate team doing that and they kind of go back and forth between the two. That'd be really fascinating to do something kind of like Call of Duty where, they got Infinity Ward, Sledgehammer, as well as Treyarch, and they're all working on different games and stuff. That would be very fascinating to say the least. I think Resident Evil has proven itself as a juggernaut in the horror space. I think that could be something really awesome. But let me know, guys, what do you all think about Resident Evil 9? What are you hoping it's going to be like? Do you hope it's like a Resident Evil 5 or 6? Or do you hope it's more like one of the originals? Or do you hope it's more like a Resident Evil 7 Biohazard or a Village? What do you guys stand on that? I would love to have a real conversation with you guys in the comment section down below. And for more Resident Evil 9 content and videos, keep it here with zrotv.